meditation, and reflection. And you might notice from your order of service that it looks a little different than what is typical. Again, trying some new things. We'll have some words, and then some silence, and then some music. And during the music, you are invited to light your own silent candle of concern or joy or celebration. But for now, the invitation is to take a deep breath, to feel yourself at home in your body, at ease in this space. These words are from my friend and colleague, the Reverend Julian Jamaica Soto. Everything is still on fire. Despite our best efforts, in addition to living, it's clear that fire or not, you must level up what it means to thrive. Right now, that means wrestling with the truth and the fact that everything is not your fault. I am sorry that everything is still on fire. Once hate catches, the winds of not my problem blow, and the blaze is hard to stop. But hard is not impossible. Not yet is different than never. You, in community, have an answer. You have a response to systems of power and control and to the cost of suffering. You and this community together are the answer. You are not only a people of flame, but also a people of cold, clear truth. You know both where you fall short and where you flourish, and where you still can reach. Everything is still on fire, but all is not lost. You remain more nimble than steadfast, more unshakable than swayed by the latest rage. You are here to put out the ravenous flames and heal the world. Enough is enough. Let us hold this time in silence.
Okay, go ahead.
Accepts you. No.
Beautiful. So a few of you were at this week's Interfaith Thanksgiving service. And you're doing this, which means that you can't hear me. And I'm wondering if there's something that I can do as I get started to make that better. Oh, okay, groovy. I am affirming everyone's ability to do the thing that makes their body and their hearing best. So at this interfaith Thanksgiving, I admitted, which I have admitted here before, that Thanksgiving is actually not my favorite holiday. I find it challenging. I recognize that for many Indigenous people, it is a day of mourning. And I do it every single year, this interfaith Thanksgiving service. And there were the usual prayers and scripture, the American triumphalism, a lot of masculine God language. But we also told a story about stone soup. And afterwards, there was fellowship and pie. And I was standing in the kitchen and watching these tables full of people eating pie and talking to each other from all the various congregations in Bridgehampton and Sag Harbor. And I'm talking to Rabbi Jan, and we're trying to think about what it is that we can do in this community, because we recognize that there is so much need and so much suffering. And as we're talking and thinking about what should we do next, what can we do, we look around the room and we say to each other, this is what we should be doing. This sitting around a table, many tables, and eating and talking to each other. That is what meets the needs of our community. We are hearing all the time that we must resist, and resist in like capital letters, resist. When I drove through Maine recently, I was delighted and curious to see, this was Ellsworth, so maybe not Belfast. All up and down the road, there are these black signs with white lettering that say, resist. Maybe you saw the story that went viral about a month or so ago of who people called the polka dot dress lady. Did this catch your attention? When ICE moved into New York City, many people resisted, but one sort of individual figure caught a lot of people's attention. A woman in a polka dot dress standing in front of a tank, facing off against this ICE tank, giving it both fingers, yelling at the officers, right? Resisting. Or maybe you've been hearing stories about clergy in Chicago, groups of clergy who have been arrested in Chicago resisting ICE, Catholic clergy who are suing because they have been forbidden, not allowed, into detention centers to administer communion and other sacraments, right? Clergy resisting. There are things that I am doing here in this community. I and several of us are at the Vigil for Palestine every week. I am on the OLA Rapid Response team every day. That chat is lit up with people sharing stories of ICE warning folks where they are in our community. But I'm also doing other things. I am having lunch with many of you, or dinner, or standing around in the kitchen chatting for way too long, but not too long, actually. Because more and more, rather than protesting or fighting or going to Albany, I am having these one-on-one conversations with people in my community, which I think are as important, not more important than the resisting, but certainly not less important than the capital letters resisting. We did something here the day after the election, and I wonder if folks remember what that was. We did not protest the day after the election. We had a full day open house, a community open house, 8 hours straight. That was music and art and poetry and healing arts, Reiki, yoga, Qigong, meditation. We had practices here to help regulate our nervous systems, definitely, but also so that folks would know and remember who we are together in community, who are our neighbors, who are the other people in our community who are building with each other. And so we had Laura Tucker. I pulled out the flyers so I could remember. Laura Tucker and Karen Meyer, Kathy Engel, Emily Whites, Tina Curran. But also people not in this congregation. Basha Kinglake, Nancy Remkes, Becky Genia, Jeremy Dennis, Denise Silva Dennis, Michelle Dobbs. People in our community who are building and interested, committed to building with each other. Systems of control and dominance, authoritarian systems, fascist systems, want us to be isolated, maybe even a little competitive with each other, absolutely distrustful of each other. They privilege relationship to a central power instead of this sort of rounded relationships, plural, in community, where there is also, if we recognize it, power. We just need to learn how to use it. So we're encouraged instead to see each other as enemies, to turn against one another, to turn against immigrants who are stealing our jobs, trans people who are stealing what? Stealing our sports? Stealing our bathrooms? To turn against poor people who are stealing from the government? It has amazed me to listen to people who themselves rely on benefits and services like SNAP or disability or Medicaid to then rail against other people who are relying on these same benefits, parroting back this mischief, this myth that there are thousands, millions of people, right, who are doing fraud, abuse, and waste, fraud, and abuse. How many times have you heard that phrase, waste, fraud, and abuse? We need to root out the waste, fraud, and abuse. We have been encouraged to turn against parents, and not just poor parents, to turn against people who would take advantage of a child tax benefit, which, by the way, is for single parents who are making $200,000, or married couples who are making $400,000. In almost every corner of our lives, our civic lives, we are encouraged to turn against our neighbors who are out to take something that ought to belong to us, or maybe actually would never belong to us. We just don't want them to have it because there's something not right about them having it. Systems of control and dominance and authoritarianism, like fascism, and also capitalism, thrive on this idea of individualism and self-reliance. This idea of individualism and self-reliance that is actually a distortion of how healthy societies and healthy communities have existed for generations. It is a relatively new idea. I am probably a generation younger than many of the people in the room. But I bet you have this same memory, this same cultural idea of going to borrow a cup of sugar from your neighbor. This idea that we rely on and can count on our neighbors and can be counted on by our neighbors. It's not a new idea. What is new is this idea of going back to the basics. And that back to the basics means that we need to be making our own butter and filling our pantries with our home-canned, home-preserved vegetables and meat, that we need to be homeschooling our children. There is nothing wrong with homeschooling children. There is nothing wrong with preserving vegetables or meat or making our own clothes. There is, however, something wrong with the suggestion that we need to do these things because we need to protect against everyone around us, rather than do these things because that is how we build in community outside of consumerism. Community is not just about reacting, though, to systems of authority and systems of authoritarianism. Real community, deep community, is about creating the world that we would love to live in, that many of us really do believe is possible. This kind of deep community, it is a shield against harm, but it is also a seed for our future. Community, and community as resistance, is not only about tearing down systems, it is also about building up relationships. Humans in society crave connection. It's one of the reasons why the pandemic was so difficult, so challenging, to be told that we could not be in the kinds of community that we need. And we can't blame isolation just on the pandemic. Critics have been sounding the alarm about social media for years. It is ironic that social media has become the cause of so much isolation in our lives. Never in the history of the world have we been able to connect to so many people in so many places so easily. And it has created a kind of loneliness that we have not experienced before. Many, many, many superficial ties. That they're called friends is funny, except it's so cruel. I checked my Facebook for this service. I have 1,216 friends. And these are people that I actually know. I do not accept a friend request from a person who I haven't actually met in person. I have 1,216 friends and 1.6 thousand followers. So a whole nother 400 people who I don't know, who for whatever reason have decided to follow my happenings on Facebook. And the number of actual, deep, real connections is much, much smaller. Much smaller. There is a group of colleagues that I started meeting monthly with in 2016. We are just celebrating 9 years of gathering together once a month. We call ourselves the Disruptors because when we initially started meeting in 2016, we had this idea that we were going to figure out how to disrupt fascism. And what we discovered was that actually we didn't need to be forming pods and doing advocacy in our scattered parts of the world. We do that. All of us are ministers. We discovered that what we really needed in the face of fascism was to build connection and relationship. People who would know us and who we could know deeply and intimately. And so we have been meeting, 6 of us, every month. Not all of us make it every month, for 9 years. Developing deep relationship, compassion, empathy. I was listening recently to a podcast talking about Black church movements and social movements, movements for justice. And the Dr. William Hart, who is a professor of religious studies at Macalester, makes this distinction between mobilizing and organizing. I have bent a few of your ears about this in the last couple of weeks. This distinction between mobilizing and organizing. Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all of the myriad ways that we are able to connect socially makes it possible to mobilize thousands of people with little effort. But that is different from the kind of deep organizing that people did a generation ago. Organizing where you know the person who is standing next to you, where you are able to take risks because you know that the person standing next to you is willing to take the same risk with you, will have your back in times of struggle. That is what is needed. This kind of deep organizing, knowing, connection in community. Despite the best efforts to divide us, this instinct for community is a strong one. I know that you have experienced it. You have seen it on the news. A fire breaks out in a community and the neighbors band together to save each other. Or a storm, a hurricane, a blizzard, ice. I'm sure you have experiences of it here. What does it mean for us to build intentionally, though, community? Not just in times of crisis, but before the crisis even arrives. Some would say the crisis is here. I actually believe that the crisis is here at our door. Many of you, I think, probably don't feel it yet. What does it mean, though, for us to build in community before we feel like we have no choice? Before we feel like we have no choice. To really trust each other. To create care for each other, shared responsibility. Maybe even vulnerability, asking for what we need, showing that we have needs, showing up materially with things like food and shelter, emotionally, to sit and grieve or celebrate or just be with a neighbor. To be in relationship not only with people, but with the planet itself, in relationship with the water, in relationship with the trees, recognizing our interdependence, that the trees are mitigating against climate change, that they are filtering pollutants in air and water, that they are the home for wildlife that we will never actually encounter, but are there and living and deserve to live just as much as we do. building community that is art, collective imagination, and storytelling, and wisdom sharing. Building community that is joy. Community that is joy. People have been saying joy is resistance, and sometimes I roll my eyes because I think having a party is not resistance, but joy that is resistance. In 1978, Audre Lorde wrote about the uses of the erotic. I was talking with Myrna about this piece several months ago. She talks about the powerful life force that is not sexual, beyond the sexual, but this powerful life force that is creative, dancing and writing, and also political work that helps us know our authentic selves, that helps us to be in authentic relationship with other people. More recently, Adrienne Marie Brown talks about pleasure activism. That activism, that resistance, that building for the future is about knowing joy and pleasure in our own bodies, that we can attune ourselves to satisfaction, to be what she calls satisfiable. Satisfiable, not always grasping and craving and wanting something more, but to know in our own bodies, away from consumerism, that there is enough. What it feels like to have and to be enough. Not lack and scarcity, but abundance and possibility. Abundance and possibility. Joy. This kind of organizing is slow going. And it is work. And so to balance it against the urgency of now, but to not forget it, this kind of slow community building, this organizing, is not just about being social with our friends, having lunch or dinner or chatting in the kitchen, but not just about being social with our friends. It is about reaching out beyond our communities of comfort. It is about risking rejection when we reach out beyond our communities of comfort. And it is slow. And it is often hard to discern as it is happening. But it is possible. Last week, Pam Wittenberg and I joined the New York UUs for Justice. And in one of the sessions, we were talking about what it is that your community can do. What is our part in the work for justice? And the question, though, that the facilitator asked us is, what brings your community joy? What brings your congregation joy? You think about it. What brings your congregation joy? Pam and I, independent of each other, we were both joining on Zoom. We independently came to the conclusion, this idea, that what brings this community joy is building and creating community. Opening our doors, having people in, bustling to get cups out of the cupboard, to set things on the table. What brings this community joy is creating that kind of community here on the East End. Fabulous people. I want to leave you with these words from Marge Piercy. She wrote that connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground. You cannot always tell by looking what is happening. More than half a tree is spread out in the soil under your feet. Penetrate quietly as the earthworm that blows no trumpet. Fight persistently as the creeper that brings down the tree. Spread like squash plant that overruns the garden. Gnaw in the dark and use the sun to make sugar. Weave real connections. Create real nodes. Build real houses. Live a life you can endure. Make life that's loving. Keep tangling and interweaving and taking more in, a thicket and bramble wilderness to the outside. But to us, interconnected with rabbit runs and burrows and layers, live as if you liked yourself. Live as if you liked yourself and make it happen. Reach out. Keep reaching out. Keep bringing in. This is how we are going to live for a long time. Not always. But every gardener knows that after the digging, after the planting, after the long season of tending and growth, the harvest comes. This is how we will live for a long time. Not always, but after the tending and the digging and the planting and the long winters, the harvest comes. May it be so, you beautiful, beautiful people. I'm so caught up in my own words, I don't even know what I'm supposed to say next. I am going to invite you into an offering, but first an announcement. Today, after this service, we will be having not our first, our second, it doesn't actually matter where in the order, climate circle to do some of what we are talking about today. How are we building in community to address what is happening in our planet around our climate? You don't need to have come to the first session to come to this session, and we hope you will join us. You'll find other announcements written in your order of service, and you can get announcements that you would like to have shared to the office by Tuesday of the week that you would like them announced. We are also trying a new thing with our offering, moving it to the end of the service instead of the middle. And so my invitation to you is, as you are leaving this room today, at the back of the room, you will find 2 baskets. The blue basket will receive gifts for the work that sustains this congregation, this meeting house. The green basket will receive gifts for our Helping Hand Fund, which you heard so much about earlier, this abundance that we are able to share in our community. We hope that you will give as generously leaving this space as you would give if the basket was circulating in the room. You can also use the QR code on your order of service or the link in your chat. For now, please join us as we sing our closing hymn. I'm sorry? I have no idea what you're saying. I'm sorry. Oh, I totally missed it. We did not do it, and the moment has passed, and next time I'll pay better attention. We are, though, going to sing together from your gray hymnal, number 394, number 349. Number 349, we gather together.
Yes, we can stand. We gather together
joyful thanksgiving, acclaiming creation whose bounty we share. Both sorrow and gladness we find now in our living. We sing a hymn of praise to the life that we share. We gather together to join in a journey, continuing, committing our passage to be a true affirmation to joy and relation when bound to the and hope that we are free.
Free. We end on free.
We are free. Our benediction this morning comes from Robin Gray. As we prepare to depart, we give voice to these hopes. May we know ourselves bound in community even while we are apart. May a passion for justice burn in our lives. May we carry the light of compassion in our hearts and in our every action. May we be whole in our devotion to truth and always carry the lamp of peace before us. We extinguish our chalice with those words in your order of service. We extinguish this flame.
This is the sound of one voice, one people, one voice, a song for every one of us. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice.
It's okay. I think it all worked out fine. Yeah. Well, talk to the mainer.
Would love to have you both back where we get to do more music.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it would be fun to do like a whole thing of music and work songs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's amazing at leading work songs.
Yeah.
There are all kinds of stuff.
When you're next in the area.
Okay. Absolutely. I'll reach out.
Yeah, please.
I loved your words.
Thank you.
Loved your whole thing. Really beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna